Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Kat and my channel is about all things bullet journaling, stationery, and books. In this video, I'm going to be talking about everything I read in March and setting up my journal for April. I only finished reading 2 books this month because I got really sick and I also had a few weeks where I was traveling. But anyway, let's get into it. Okay, first I'll start about talking about 2 books I started to read but have not yet finished. The first is The North Wind by Alexandria Warwick. And this is a story that is inspired by Persephone and Hades / Beauty and the Beast. And there are some Hunger Games vibes to it in the beginning. To be honest, I'm not loving it so far. And even though there are some elements of, okay, my cat is just being crazy. Okay, so even though there are some elements of that, I just don't really think I'm in love with Ren, who is the main character. But I will try my best to finish this book and see if it gets better. The second book that I started to read but did not finish is Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. And this is an interesting one. It's a black comedy romance about 2 vigilante serial killers who kill people together and start to really like each other. And I brought this with me when I was traveling, but I wasn't able to finish it on my trip. And then I got back and I got really sick. And then I got 2 library books. And I always try to prioritize reading my library books because there are not a lot of English books available where I am. So there's usually only like 1 or 2 copies, which means I usually can't renew the books I borrow. So I try to read those first. Anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. So far, I like this book. But I don't love it, and I think that's also why I kind of stopped reading it a little bit, but I will try to finish it. And I don't know if it's maybe just that I'm not really into black comedy, or it's like really new for me, so it's a little harder for me to get into, but yeah, we'll see. Okay, back to the voiceover. The first book that I did finish reading this month was King of Pride by Ana Huang. This is the second book in the King of Sins billionaire romance series, and it's set in the same universe as Ana Huang's Twisted series. King of Pride follows the story of Isabella, who is a writer and a bartender, and Kai, who is a British billionaire who leads his family's media empire. And we see these 2 appear in King of Wrath, yes, the first book in this series. I liked that Kai is so different from any of Ana Huang's other male leads, but for me, this story was just okay. The part that was really refreshing was Kai being different, but he wasn't really my favorite character. And as for Isabella, I think there was a lot of potential for a character. She's also kind of unique. She's quirky. She's outgoing. There's a lot of interesting things about her. You know, she's a pet snake. But for me, her character fell a little flat. I just didn't completely buy the romance between them. It reminded me a lot of an Instagram post I saw about how someone was saying how, you know, they think that certain fictional characters probably broke up after the ending. And to be honest, I can totally see Kai and Isabella breaking up because I just don't quite understand their relationship and how they would really make it work in the long term. And this is completely just my personal opinion and probably has a lot to do with my personal preference. So if you did love it, Kai and Isabella, that's amazing, and I'm really glad you enjoyed it. It just wasn't a personal favorite for me. The second book I finished reading this month was Blood of Hercules by Jasmine Mass. This book is a fantasy novel heavily inspired by Greek mythology, as you can probably tell by the title. And when I picked up this book, I was expecting a dark romantasy, and it definitely has those elements, but I think this book is primarily a fantasy novel. And the romance, at least in this first book, is a bit more secondary, or at least it feels that way. And I think the reason is because there's a lot of world building and character backstory in this book, especially in the first half of the book. This book is heavily inspired by Greek mythology, and while elements are like in the myths that you might know, especially if you're really into Greek mythology the way I am, it's definitely not a retelling, and it's more of a Greek mythology reimagined universe that is also set in the future. So our main character, Alexis, is someone who had a really rough childhood and has experienced a lot of trauma. The story kind of kicks off around the time that she's in high school, but we see a bit of her childhood before then as well. And she's extremely introverted. She has a dark, sarcastic sense of humor. She's a really strong and resilient person, but she's also very naive in a lot of ways. And I just realized that she actually has something in common with Isabella from King of Pride, because she also has, okay, it's probably not fair to say a pet snake, because I don't think Nyx would appreciate that, but she has a friend. Her best friend is a snake, and the snake's name is Nyx, and this invisible snake is kind of like her main friend throughout the book. And overall, I really enjoyed the book. I think it initially was a little bit difficult for me to get into because of all of the world building, and I had to pause a couple times and like kind of go back. And there's this page in the front of the book that explains the different, it's almost like a family tree. And it was really helpful because I kept going back to it because it was just a little bit different from what I know about Greek mythology. So there is that. I also really didn't expect kind of multiple love interests in this plot, so I don't want to spoil too much. But anyway, it was an interesting book, and I really enjoyed it, and I think I will definitely be reading the second book in this series called Bonds of Hercules that is coming out this October. But yeah, it was really interesting. I would actually love to know, if you have read this book, what did you think of it? Let me know in the description box, because this was definitely a pretty unique book I've read. And of course, one of the most exciting parts about setting up my reading journal this time was that I got to use a ton of stickers and ephemera that I got in my February 2025 sticky subscription pack, because it was classics themed. So this was absolutely perfect for this book. So now let's go ahead and fill out all of the tracker things. The first thing I'm going to do is just fill out my March stats. So I filled out the title for the 2 books that I read, and the best book of the month for me was Blood of Hercules with a rating of 8 out of 10. I also wrote down 2 little sections, which was the 2 books I started to read, North Wind and Butcher and Blackbird. And then I did re-listen to 2 audiobooks, which were Lights Out by Nevessa Allen and Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. And that's because when I was traveling, I was trying to pack light, and I listened or re-listened to the audiobooks I already had. So that was for March. And now going back to the front of my journal, I'm going to start by coloring out my bookshelf and adding 2 books for the 2 books that I read this month. Then I'm going to go and fill out my book bracket. So Blood of Hercules was the best book for March. And then now we've finished the first quarter of the year. So of the first 3 months of the year, my favorite book out of The Glass Castle, Twisted Lies, and Blood of Hercules was Twisted Lies. So Twisted Lies moves up in the book bracket. Next, I'm going to fill out my format and genre tracking. So only 2 books this month, really easy. They were both physical copies and both works of fiction, and both of them were library books. I didn't spend any money on books this month, which is great. And then I added in the 2 titles that I read into my list of books on this page. And then finally, last but not least, I went to the back of my journal where I glued in a cover for Blood of Hercules. I did not yet print out the King of Pride book cover, so I will probably be doing that next month, if not the one after, but I saved a little space for it. And then we're going to get into the April setup. To be honest, I don't know how much value these monthly setups are bringing for my reading journal, so I don't know if I'm going to do it in 2026, but we're sticking to it. And for this month, the theme that I chose was Nature's Curiosities, which was the March subscription box I got from Archer and Olive recently, and I just really wanted to start playing with the different washi tape and ephemera. So this is what it looks like. I really like it. It's really fun. And I think the butterfly and plant stickers are really lovely, although I will say they're a little bit thick, so that it does add a little bit of volume to the pages. And I'm really happy about how the pages turned out. I think probably my favorite spread for this month was the Blood of Hercules spread, just because I got to play with so many stickers. But yeah, if you watched until the end of this video, thank you so much. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.